Moonshine, you can leave now. Me and Mo have
So you're dismissed.
private time. You're dismissed. I'm fingering his shoulders.
It's the pen pocket.
It's a pen pocket.
All right, let's get to it.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, no, for real though. You guys see this? This is why I love these new polos.
They're meant for highlighters and pens.
I can just do this when I need someone's
purpose.
attention. I just stick my fingers in and I say, hey, let's go. And then I make them follow me.
You're stretching the deformity of this.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, you guys
All
should
right.
buy our new polos. Welcome back to the podcast. We finally figured out mics, I think. I think
They sound a lot more crispy.
Yeah. I think
sound
this
good.
is like actual podcast material now.
Yeah. XLR mics.
Yeah. Shout out to Ivan, my Q60 RS. He's a good customer of ours, good friend. He told me a while ago to buy this Yamaha MG 10XU board, and I bought it, and then Chidong didn't install it because he sucks. And so it sat there under his desk for 2 months. Yeah, it was definitely 2 months. So
what does Chidong do at work?
I don't know. Honestly, man, I feel like Chidong is where parts come to die. Like we order things for my car, for your car, for shop cars.
They just sit around.
They just sit around, and then like a year later, they're like, hey, didn't we order that for the car? Where is it? And then I wonder why we have bad profitability.
Yeah. Blame Chidong.
Chidong and Anna.
Yeah.
The Gen Zs, man.
Do we bundle Moonshine into that too? Because he's technically Gen Z.
No, Moonshine tunes hard.
He does send a lot of emails per day.
He's also bricked up while he's sending you guys emails. I'm telling you facts.
You guys got to stop sending him Instagram DMs for tuning support. So me and Alex have this thing. It's called like.
Oh yeah, this is the first time you're on the podcast.
Yeah,
so now they get to hear
is.
from Mo's perspective.
So I have this. My first name is Mo. Full name is Moy.
He got mad at me that I only put Mo on there, and I'm like, you never introduce yourself as anything but Mo.
Yeah, it's just easier. I mean, even to friends, I'll just say Mo. So
my exact words were, if I introduced myself as Ho, I would have put Ho on my polo.
Oh, I would hope not,
but I don't. So
anyways, I'm Mo. A lot of you guys interact with me through, if you guys call Racebox, if you guys DM us on Instagram, Facebook. A lot of the interactions you have with Racebox are from me. So I run pretty much the sales, Instagram. Social media is Chidong, of course. So he makes the posts, creates the reels, Instagram stuff. But any kind of... actually, comments is still done through Chidong. So he does the comments and TikToks. But a lot of anything like the business side of things is done through me. So...
Mo's like my right-hand man. A lot of times when you guys message me, and I'm like, oh yeah, call the shop, I have no intention of answering the phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're listening, you probably already know this. If I gave you the shop number and I said, oh yeah, call us anytime, I never intended on answering the phone call. I meant on sending you to Mo, because Mo's fantastic. I mean, he's a saint with you guys. Like I listen to some of the calls when he's like at the office and he has it on speakerphone, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like I would have hung up or told y'all off a long time before Mo does. So
yeah, I mean, so he's when he does that, he's not pawning you guys off. It's just more of like kind of streamlining communication.
Is this such a fantastic customer service reply?
I'm just,
that was so good.
Kinda,
he's like, I don't want you to think that you're not taken care of.
Which is true.
I mean, I'm not. It's truthfully though, I'm not pawning you off. The thing is, if I went to do whatever you asked me, I would likely get in the middle of something else and forget it. When I send it off to Mo, I know that it's going to get done.
It's just cleaner, so from the start to the end of the interaction, we just keep things organized.
Yeah,
so that's
the only one who has trouble with that is still Moonshine. That's what we were talking about. That's how we got on this topic. Yeah, you guys DM Moonshine, and then he feels the need to like take care of you right then and there, and then it complicates things.
It does. So we have this thing with Moonshine. We call it 10 before 10. So I want him to send 10 emails before 10, but he's busy with like Instagram DMs, Facebook DMs, looking at comments, and like I'm like, man, if you just direct them to your email, you would just be able to get to things quicker.
It used to be that we'd walk in and Moonshine would be like responding to you guys on his DMs for the first like 2 hours, and then the poor guy would stay here till 8. And we're sitting there wondering,
to
like,
actual emails.
Why is this guy working so late? And it was because he was spending way too much time on your DM stuff. So we've tried to streamline that for you. So don't think of it as us not caring as much. It's actually us caring more. Because if you think about it, we have to invest a lot of money to have a team like this. Mm-hmm. So the more people that work together on this, the better service y'all get.
He could technically ignore DMs like a lot of other tuning and motorsports companies. They'll even put in their bio like no DMs with little... what's the logo? Where it crosses it out? Like saying restricted.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, the X.
The X.
Yeah, that's actually a great segue into what this podcast is about. So I guess a lot of times people ask, with regard to the podcast in specific, they've been asking us to talk about what it's like to run a tuning shop and how the journey has been. And that's a great segue into it. Is I think we've done a pretty good job of not becoming that shop that's like, hey, we're not accessible anywhere but email. There's companies that say don't Instagram DM us, right?
Yeah.
Or don't
just
Facebook DM,
only.
and it's email only. And like, they don't even allow you to call. I mean, we allow you guys to Instagram DM. We allow you guys to call us. We allow you guys to text us. We allow you guys to email us. We allow you guys to Facebook DM us. And like, even if I get a Facebook DM, so if you've DM'd me, you'll notice a lot of times I'll respond weeks later because there's so many DMs on my personal account. But even then, I will always make an effort. And like, I'm probably the worst about it, but if you're contacting me, it means you didn't try any of the other channels, right? But most of the time when I get to it, they've already spoken to somebody before then.
Right.
I'm like, oh, fantastic, it worked out. But yeah, I don't know any other company that is as big as we are and does as much volume as we do and still allows this level of personalized service. So I think that's probably been the largest challenge of running this shop.
It is, and I can tell you that like our response time, depending on the communication method, is going to vary. I'll tell you, like, calling is the best way. I don't answer every single call, but I do call you guys back. So if you guys notice that some people will call like a couple times in a row and like, we'll get back to you sometimes later. But calling is by far usually the best way. Email as well. So I'd say phone and email is probably the best way to get a hold of us.
What about text messages? How do you feel about the text messages that come in?
Texting is a little bit, I don't like texting as much. I'd still prefer even Instagram and Facebook over texting.
Why is that?
Because I'm just like texting on a phone. Like, you don't have access to
all the tools that we use.
Yeah, I feel like Instagram, and then especially if I have to like find their social media accounts later, right? If I'm like, we're tagging them on something, right? It's easy because I already have the conversation history and I can see them, right? Email too, I just have a long conversation. It's just easier. I'm on a desktop computer opposed to like a small mobile phone. So we do have people that do text us, but it's much smaller than like Facebook, Instagram, email. Email is probably a big one for us too. Like after phone calls, it's going to be email.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, best way to reach me is usually email. That's the one that I get back to. But then I feel like I do a disservice where I continuously like will still try and respond to people who DM us, and then it ends up hurting us in the end because it's like, well, Hussain, can you please stop? Bro, please.
Because you get to it later or what?
I think it reinforces that you can still message me that way. And then like once in a while, there will be people who get it. Right? Like they get a response immediately. And then so for those people, I notice a lot of times that they will then start messaging me without even waiting for a response from you guys. Yeah. Right? Like, there's a couple guys that message me. So we have like we have our Microsoft Teams is what we use for like our internal chatting and all that. And so I'll randomly DM them like on a Sunday, like, yo, why the is this guy messaging me so much? And then we'll talk about it and it'll, come back to like, oh yeah, well, you always respond to him, so he's going to keep messaging you. And
it makes sense. I'm like, if I got a response this way, I'm going to keep trying it,
Exactly. So. But then, like, on one hand, I could, I don't want to become that guy. I was like, no, don't, direct all your inquiries to our email. So it's difficult. Yeah. I don't know if we can ever get away from it because it just wouldn't feel right to tell people, like, hey, don't DM me.
Right.
Unless I deactivate my Facebook, which I guess I could.
So I think... another big part of the reason why we decided to make ourselves available, like through all the different communication methods, because Hussain and I, like, we've been on the opposite side of the things, right? It's how we first met, like, through the Q50 tuning platform. So just like a lot of the experience that we've had is we know how it is to be the customer. Like, him and I both started, you started this platform on the Q50, and at the time when I first met you, I had a Q50 Red Sport. And so just having the experiences with tuners at the time, and not even just the Q50. I mean, like, him and I, we've been car guys like all of our life. And I think
Mo more than me, to be quite honest. I mean, I really only got into cars with the Q50, right? Like, I liked cars.
But you were modding your Integra back in the day.
Yeah, but I never really dealt with vendors. But I didn't have money to buy shit from vendors. I was buying stuff from, like, Craigslist, like meeting up random sketchy dudes for, like, random Integra parts. Right. But I remember we talked back and they were like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool to run our own like shop and sell parts? And like, I think we literally said we'd offer such better service than these companies. I think you were like, you were either ordering coilovers or something at that point, and you were so frustrated with the service. And
communication.
That's how, so it's been like our goal to have good communication and always maintain that response time.
Yeah. I think we've done, especially as a team has gotten bigger.
Yeah.
Like from tuning side of things, orders. I mean, Chidong and Anna took care of all the orders. Took that off of Alex's plate. And then when I came onto the company 3 years ago, I took off all the communication from Alex's plate. So
it used to be just Moonshine and I. And it's funny though. I feel like we're busier than ever. Like, you know, I almost sometimes miss the days when it was just me out of my apartment. It just seems simpler.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like with the volume, and that's with any business when you grow it, it's, you obviously invest in the personnel, you invest in your staff, make it bigger and bigger. But as revenue grows, it's like your profits go down and you feel like you're putting in more work for less, even though it's not true, obviously. You know, I mean, the business still grows, but it's difficult, man. I mean, I don't know, like if we were to start again, would you do anything different 3 years in? Would you have laid it out differently?
What aspect?
Anything you'd change about how we started off, like things that are so difficult for us to change now that we can't do. Would you have changed anything about how we started up the business?
I think the ways that you implemented like different stages of our business processes, I think were at the right time. I honestly, like right now, in retrospect, looking back at it, I couldn't say, hey, I think we could have done this differently. I think it all came in stages when there was needed. You know, like when adding personnel, changing a process. So, yeah, I mean, nothing comes to mind, honestly.
It's nice of you to say that. There's a few things I would change.
Yeah, I mean, if I sat there and I thought about it for a long time.
I guess I think about this a lot. So, yeah, I would change a few things. I mean, it was very disorganized when I started out, but it's because it was just me. So I feel like I could have done better if I had planned it out, but I'm not very much a planner. So I don't know if that's fair to say, because like, yeah, I would change it, but that's not me. Especially with the way we executed this shop. I think I kind of jumped in head first, and I should have started with a smaller space.
Yeah, it's a pretty big shop.
Yeah, I think I was like very drawn in by the location. I mean, it's super cool to be like, hey, we're right next to the shop Houston, right? Yeah. Like when people ask, where are you? It's like, you know, we're right here. We get a lot of people that see us when they drive by. I mean, Dan Rue like just waves to us now. Yeah, he's like, oh, hey guys, what's up, right? Yeah. So it's cool to have that. I think realistically the shop space could have been much better planned, and it would have made your life and Chidong and Ronnie and now Marcus and Anna's life a lot better if the shop space and we had a more dedicated space for everything, right? Because like if you ever walk into our shop, I mean, the office space, if we let you in the back, is like, yeah, it's the office space, but like it's also storage for every damn thing that comes into the shop.
It's a mixed environment,
right? And so I feel like it kind of messes with it. Like there should be a dedicated, like, okay, this is the shipping and receiving room. This is where customers, and we have such a big customer area that's unnecessary.
We do.
Yeah. Like the original goal was to have like a showroom for all of our cars, but the reality of it is when you have shop cars, they're either always out or they're broken. Yeah. I mean, the only time it's hard parked ever is if it needs work, right? So like
wait for something.
When the Supra breaks a drive shaft, it sits outside.
Yeah.
When the Z right now broke the diff, it just sits outside, right? Or my old Q, for example. Any of those cars. So then it's like, well, we don't need that, right? So going back, I would go for a much more streamlined office space where I would have had, even if it wasn't so large, I think what we do if we had like so this is a 6,000 square foot shop total, right, with everything. If we even had half that space, but it was better organized, we would be more efficient.
It's tough though to find that kind of setup.
It is,
and then be in a location that you want it to be.
Yeah, and it's not something I would have known never having run a shop, right? Yeah. Like this, a lot of people might not know, but like this was just straight up. I've kind of what Mo said. I've run this by the seat of my pants. Like I don't, you know, I'm not like I didn't read up on how to run a business. I didn't read self-help. I didn't go to a TED Talk. You know, I didn't have any like business experience before, right? I worked in a small business and I also worked in corporate. So I'm very, very well attuned to the differences on how you should treat your staff, right? The small business mentality is a lot better. Everybody, I never want to become corporate because small businesses can always offer, they offer a better life for, you know, for their staff, for one thing, I think, right? We're more flexible. Yeah, you don't have like the corporate benefits. You don't get to flex about, oh, I work at this big, cool corporate company, right? but then your actual day-to-day life is a lot better. And I think when you work in a small business, you get to see all aspects of things, which I think a lot of people enjoy, versus being like, hey, you're doing this one small task for this multi-million,
and you're so far away from what the company's goals are.
Yeah, at least here we're all aligned, right? But then on the flip side of that, it's also like you don't want to be a corporate person to your customers. And I think that's been that kind of drives all of us here, where we're always trying to not be that guy. So even now when we sit, I think a lot of what drives this company is we'll think, well, okay, what would we do if we were a customer, right? Like a perfect example, I don't want to name names. I don't want to make it specific either, so this is kind of hard. But we have a customer who was tuned by us, but has had his car built by a couple different shops now, and he's always DMing us. And he's a really nice guy. Q customer? Yeah, it's a Q customer. Okay. You probably know who I'm talking about. He's a really nice guy, really sweet, and he's so nice to the point where he doesn't want to call out anybody. But then he waits like years. His car's now at the second shop, trying to get fixed, and he's been even this shop who promised that we will not be like the last guys, and they built their whole reputation on we are not those guys. They're doing the same thing to him.
I know you're talking about. Yep.
And it's like. And he's telling me, he's like, I don't want to be negative about it. I don't want to go hurting someone's reputation. And I'm like, well, listen, if it were me, right? Like on the flip side, I would want you to do that to me. Like if you were not imagine we had a customer who had paid us in advance, right? Big build, all of that. And we're just not even that we're slow and taking forever. We're just not even replying to him.
Yeah.
I'd be like, man, if you had gone a week without communication from me and there was no real reason, and even if there was a reason, I would want you to go fucking post about it.
Yeah. Make it known.
Because you should be accountable. And I think that's the problem in the industry in general, is that shops are not accountable, right? And I know on the flip side, there's a lot of times like, man, there was a customer a long time ago where, again, I can't get into details because you guys will know who it is, but we messed up, took a car earlier than we should have. It sat around for a while. We got it ready. There was problems, not due to ours, due to parts failures. And then, just to avoid a customer basically trash talking us when we were so early in our development of the shop.
Shopping open.
Yeah, man, I dumped $28,000 into that car just to keep the customer happy of my own money, right? And I think those are the things you need to maintain like a successful business. I think a lot of times people get into a business and they think, well, no one else would do that. Why should I? Right?
Yeah, you can't think of it like that all the time.
Yeah, you can't be like, well, no one else does it, so I shouldn't. Like, I got into this to be a disruptor. I hate using buzzwords like that, but I don't know how else to describe it. Like we definitely are different from every other shop. I mean, and it's not to say there aren't other good shops like us, right? We align ourselves with other shops that offer this kind of service, but at some point you're like, all right, well, this is the industry. This is what everybody hates about it. If I want to get into this and, become big and gain popularity.
How do we do things differently?
Yeah, how do we do things? How do we do right by every single person that comes? And the thing is, you're not always going to be able to do right.
No.
There's been people that we've gone way above and beyond for, and we're like, you know what? It's just not happening.
It's the nature of the business to what we do.
Yeah, but you know what's great about that? Even some of those people, they've been mad at us. They've gone out and then they've come back and apologized. Yeah. I'm like, hey, I was wrong. You guys are not as bad as I made you seem. Can we work it out? Right? And we don't hold grudges, man. It's not like that. It's at the end of the day, like we're all in this for business. We're all in this for the same reason, right? So it's still hard though. I won't lie. Like we refunded some people recently and I'm like, oh, like there's so many other reasons why you could be having that problem, but you're not worth the hassle that you're putting us through, right? Because if we spent 2 hours on the phone arguing with you, that's 2 hours that we're not responding to other customers, right? And then also like the potential blowout from it, where there's a lot of misinformation anyway, and it's very easy for people to convince people otherwise. And so, yeah, I don't really know what the structure of this podcast is. Like, are we just kind of talking about what it's like to run a shop? Is that what people wanted?
Pretend somebody's asking you, how do you start a business like this? How do you just start from the beginning? Like, how do you get this started?
I mean, all right. So we're gonna after all of that, we're like what 20 minutes into this. Let's start with some actual questions, right?
Yeah.
So all right, so you guys probably heard Chidong. I think it does pick up on the mic.
Yeah,
Did you hear
I
yourself?
hear myself.
Okay, perfect. So how do we get into this? Realistically, man, it truly was as simple as I didn't like the responses I received from other shops when I wanted to tune my Q50. And I just truly thought I could do it better. So if you ever get yourself in that situation and you think you can do something better and you can provide a better service, believe in yourself and do it. Like that's the biggest thing. I had people who believed in me. I mean, obviously I had Mo and other friends like, yeah, man, do it, right? But like, I was working for my cousin at the time and he's the one who got me. He believed in me. He's like, hey, I'm going to front you on this. Just do it. I think you'd be really good at it, right? So I hope that if you're ever in that position, you have people around you who support you to do things like that and can push you in. But if you ever think like, hey, there's something missing here, I can do better, let me take a shot at it, man, the worst thing you can do is fail. I got lucky in that my first shot at it, it worked out, but it could have not. I think we've experienced some of those failures like later on, but initially it was a nice start for me. And so, and don't have expectations. I think a lot of people get into a business and like, oh, well, have we even ever set a revenue goal?
We haven't set a revenue goal, but I think you yourself have had expectations on like what we should be doing as a shop, and that's like tuning things aside. It's more about the actual work that we have.
I think those expectations came later though. In the start, did we ever have like when it was just tuning and some parts? Did we ever have expectations? No, right?
No. So the marker was always do better than the year before.
Yeah.
Right. So we had revenue numbers from that.
Yeah. Your only competition is yourself, right? Yeah. And so you also have to be in kind of a blessed position to do that though. Like I was lucky enough that when I started this business, I had, a decent enough savings of my own. And then, I have my wife to rely on. I have family. I wasn't in a position where the business was, it was like, if I didn't do it, I was going to sink in my personal life. Right. So I was able to start it off small. So the best way, I guess, is if you want to start a business, do it in your free time.
Yeah. Don't quit your day job.
Yeah. I while I was tuning, I think even once I had Moonshine working for me, I was still doing a full-time day job.
Yeah.
I worked for about a year, about 16 to 17 hours a day, where I'd work my 8-hour day job, go home and work another 8 to 9 hours on the business.
There's a lot of people in this industry that do that, like tuners, that they'll have a day job.
Yeah.
There's a local Hellcat tuner. I forgot his name, like ZF something.
He does pretty good, right?
He does. So he has a full-time IT gig. Yeah. In the evenings, he tunes Hellcats.
Yeah, I think you'll find a lot of people are like that. And tuning kind of lends itself to that. I don't know if all businesses can. I know there's a lot of businesses that require substantial investment, right? So you can't, if you're asking me about how to start a shop, I can only tell you from the perspective of being a tuner first, right? Like I didn't take out any loans. I didn't borrow any money from anyone. I didn't substantially invest. I did invest quite a bit of my own money, but that came after the tuning side of the business was already up. I don't think I'm like an authority on like all small businesses, right? I think I can tell you in this one very niche case, this is how it worked out for me, right? And you could apply this to other things that don't require significant investment. I can think of stuff like reselling parts, right? Like you buy and sell at a smaller amount, not a smaller amount, in small quantities, right? Like, okay, I'm going to post this up on a sales board or something, or you make a craft at home that you sell. But any work that you produce that does not require a lot of, doesn't require overhead, right? And then doesn't require a lot of investment to begin with. But I think most things that are business to customer can be done like that, where you start off small. Like a good example is like baking, right? If you like baking and you want to start selling cupcakes, I know a lot of people who start, they start selling cakes from home, they bake in their free time, and then they just grow in popularity, and then it kind of grows into a business for them, right? But I think what I can tell you is how to grow. How to really get yourself out there. To date, we don't market. I think we run Google ads now.
Yeah.
But I don't know how helpful they are. I think I've boosted like 2 posts on Instagram ever.
Yeah. No sponsored ads for Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah, no sponsored ads. We don't actively advertise. We're not on Facebook. I'm like, hey, come to Racebox. yes, of course, there are people who are like, you ask where should I get to, and people will come in and say Racebox. Right. But outside of the people that are currently under my employ, we don't pay anybody to go say that for us. We don't make, and even the people in my employ, we're not on the Racebox. You'll never see them make a post being like, hey, we're the best, come to us, right? Like, we do, we post our stuff on Instagram. We post
results. Promotion, things like that.
Yeah, but there's no like active marketing, right? And the only reason that has worked for me is that before I got into tuning, I would like to say that I was a well-known member of the community. So like, you know, I guess baking is another example. I'm sure there's Facebook groups about baking. I'm sure there's local classifieds for baking, right? Get well known, go to a farmer's market, get your name out there first, right? Before you try and sell any kind of product. I think a lot of people want to just sell something right off the bat. And that's hard. And specifically in the auto industry, I found a lot of people, even friends of mine that have tuning shops, like, hey man, like I can't seem to break out of this, right? Like I can't grow. I'm like, dude, I used to tune for basically free. I mean, I think some of my prices when I used to run like specials back in the day were like $700 for a full tune Ecutech kit.
They're cheap. Yeah.
That was basically the cost of the Ecutech stuff at the time, right? And so it's like you got to be willing to do that to see if people value your work, right? Like even if you're just breaking even on your cost, you're still growing your business because people are knowing. So you're getting your product out there, you're getting your name out there, right? And that's how it started, right? Now the downside of that is that yes, people would come back like, well, my buddy paid you $700 a year ago. Why can't I get that price? And I'm like, well, man, you should have gotten in at the ground. I don't know what you want me to tell you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're coming to me now because I've got, you know, X amount of customers and all these good reviews. So there's a reason you come to me now. Back then I didn't. So they took a chance on me. So they got a good deal, right? But I think you have to be willing to do that.
It helps having that popularity. You know, there's so many other big examples, small businesses, large businesses, where they have a following, and it could be from like a different market, right, segment completely. And they decide to like start something and like right. So with you, it related, right? You know in the Q community, then you want to do tuning, and then you produce great examples. And like we don't spend any money on marketing, but our marketing is our customers.
Is our customer
and the experiences that we have. Right? So when customers are happy about something, like hey, had a really good experience with Racebox, they're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
So
and that's a really good point. A lot of the money that I invested into customers that like maybe didn't deserve it on a personal level, it stopped them from doing the opposite, right? Because people will always be more likely to say a negative thing than a positive thing about your business. Because if everything goes good, they're not motivated to go say anything unless you ask them, which we don't, right? So then it's like, all right, so a lot of that was kind of like a marketing expense where I have to just write it off. I'm like, well, this is saving us from negative marketing, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not it is your fault or not, I think a lot of the harder parts for me was also letting go of the ego, man. Like not being egotistical about it. I'm like, well, you know, I'm right, so I am gonna be steadfast on this and not compromise, and I'm unwilling to bend on this.
Customer's always right.
Yeah, it sounds silly, but customer's king, man. I mean, you know, if you want to look at really big examples, look at Amazon. Amazon sucks now. I'll say that, right? But this is so many years later. But I remember when Amazon first like started doing their like big 2-day shipping. I used to live in Vermont in like a small, I mean, every town in Vermont is small, but I was in like one of the larger size towns in Vermont. It was Essex Junction, if anybody knows. It's probably like 20,000 people, maybe.
What year is
this? This was 2007 or 2008.
That's when Prime 2-Day came out?
I think it came out in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, sometime around then. So, or maybe 2010. But it was when I was in high school, I remember that. And I was like, yo, 2-day shipping on UPS to Vermont, it was unheard of. Like when you ordered online back then, bro, we used to wait a week, 2 weeks for anything to come, right?
Yeah, game changer.
And then Amazon's customer service back then was fantastic. Like I remember I had a Nokia phone that it broke due to no like defect of the phone. It just broke. And they were like, well, we'll just ship you a new one. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and it's not Amazon's fault at all.
It's not Amazon's fault. And I wasn't even rude about it. I wasn't anything, but I was like, hey, it kind of sucks. I bought a phone from you and, you know, a year later it fails. And this was back when we didn't change phones every year. So, you know, it actually mattered to me. And yeah, like that's just one example. Like I have so many examples of back in the day of Amazon just like going above and beyond for anything. Like, oh, your package came damaged. Yeah. Boom. I don't even care. They didn't even want to see it. Like, here's a new one. Oh, your package came late. Boom, refund.
I kind of have that experience now with Amazon. Do you not?
No, I don't, man.
I mean,
we nowadays, like you order like a today delivery, it comes 3 days later, whatever. Like, I feel like the average lead time to get stuff on Amazon now when I order is worse than when I had the 2-day shipping on UPS, right? And now Amazon kind of tells you to go f*** yourself. Like, for example, with the baby, we're buying a bunch of stuff for the baby. Sometimes, you know, we buy it, we're like, actually, this isn't useful, let's return it, right? It's like, you're like, oh, this, you know, like we bought like a bottle brush and we realized that it didn't actually come in handy. We never even used it. We're like, it just sits there, so let's go return it. Amazon doesn't give you the refunds anymore. You have to call in. Like, there's been so many times when I've had to be like, hey, where's the refund? The shit was returned.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh yeah, sorry, it's on the way now. So, you know, that's them now, but Amazon is only so big now because of the crazy customer service they had, right?
Initially.
Like, they offered a service that no one else did. They took billions of dollars in losses for so many years, and then they turned a profit, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't have to take billions of dollars in losses, but I busted my ass for not a lot of money early on, right? But it was to show that, hey, this is what I have to offer. Once you've established the value of your product, then you can start growing the business, right? I didn't right off the bat invest in a massive website. I didn't go ahead and buy myself a fancy car. I didn't, you know, a lot of people, like, the first sign of success they see it, like, oh, boom, let me go flex.
Yeah, let me buy a car.
Yeah, let me go show everyone how successful I am. And yeah, to a certain extent, showboating works. I mean, in this industry especially, I think if I drove, you know, like, for example, no one's going to come to us to tune an R8 unless I myself have a twin turbo R8.
Yeah, that or we have some examples.
Or we have some examples of somebody who trusted us with their twin turbo R8, right? But that helps. But if you do that from the start before you have anything, you're just going to drive yourself into debt. And we've seen that with so many shops that have popped up and gone away. People who overpromise, underdeliver, and then they work off customer money. And then when it comes around to the time that the customer's like, hey, where the is my car?
Yeah.
They don't have the parts, they don't have the money, and the car's been sitting there.
There's a delicate balance of, you know, the saying, you gotta spend money to make money.
Yeah.
So I think some people take it too far, right?
It's also, it's very, very similar to how people use credit cards, right? Like, oh, well, I have access to it, let me use it.
Right.
And then you end up in, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt.
Yeah.
Where you gotta know that, all right, if I'm spending anything right now, I can't be working on borrowed money. Like, if I owe, very simple, just accounts payables, account receivables, right? Like, every business should have that. Even if you're just one guy, you should have these numbers written down or somewhere in your head or something, so you know that when you go purchase something, you are not taking money that is not yours, or that is for work that you were paid in advance that is not completed, right? That's how a lot of these shops fail. And then once you get to the point where you've got a good income coming in, then you think about, okay, is this enough to sustain myself if I quit my day job? And at that point, when it is, or when it's very close, you quit your day job, you invest all of your time into the business.
Yeah.
And then, as far as I'm concerned, for me, I was not so caught up on, oh, I'm making so much money on every tune, let me keep doing this to myself, right? Like, I knew, very simply, I was making more money the first year that I started tuning when it was just me and Alex was doing Instagram than I am now, personally, right? We're not talking about the business, not talking about revenue, I'm talking about my personal livelihood. It was way more money, way less stress, all of that, right? But that's very short-sighted. And it's fine. Some people want to stay like that, like you want, and I know a lot of tuners are like that, actually, and there's nothing wrong with it.
They're choosy about who they pick.
Yeah, they're picky about who they choose. Yeah, yeah, you flip them.
Choosy to pick.
Yeah. Anyway, it's okay. So they're picky about who they tune, and they only take in as many as they need because they're like, okay, I get this amount of tunes. And it was so simple back then. I remember that. I'm like, oh man, if I tune like 5 customers this week, I'm going to buy myself some sick shit, right? Yeah. And it was fantastic because I had no overhead. Yeah. You know, I didn't have to worry about anyone else's livelihood.
Employees.
Yeah, so that's one thing you should really consider. When you get to that point where it's just you're doing well and you're ready to take this full time, is that what you want? Because a business, it's so funny. I feel bad sometimes, and you know, I'm very close with my cousin who helped me start this, who I used to work for. His name's Yusuf. And you know, I'll text him sometimes. I'll be like, dude, you know, like, oh, Moonshine will do some stupid shit. And I'll be like, oh my God, I remember when I did this to you. I'm so sorry. Right? Like, I finally know how it feels. Or like, you know, when I have to deal with a customer that, you know, you guys were too nice to, and now I'm caught up and like, oh, or, you know, we rarely overpromise, but sometimes, like, you know, it happens. Sometimes you say something will happen and it doesn't. You know, goddamn, I got to go fix this. And all of those little things, man, like, if you are not ready, and I don't know if you can ever be ready, like, I didn't know how bad it was until I started it, but you should at least know if you're the kind of personality who's going to be able to take it. Like, once you go from just you to having staff and growing your business, it's great because on paper you look really cool. Like, I think everybody thinks that, you know, Hussain, is like hella wealthy and hella rich now because all of my employees drive cool ass cars. That's not how that works. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I was a big corporation, sure, maybe I'd be like, you know, a CEO making like 10 times what these guys make. But it's just not how it works, right? I gave up a lot of my personal stuff for the business to grow because I want this to be a sustainable thing in the future, right? And then you think about, is this where I want, my daily income to come, or is this something that I'm building, right? And if you're building for a future, then you got to be ready to sacrifice a lot of it. And that's where the next step comes in. That's when you go and, all right, I had saved up in the first year of tuning out of my apartment. I remember I used to get, COVID apartment tuners.
I remember that.
Yeah, there were some other tuners from like big shops who don't even tune on the platform anymore because their tune sucked. But they used to talk shit and be like, oh, he doesn't have a dyno. He's never tuned on a dyno. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I had access to dynos. You don't have to own a dyno to use one. But anyway, I was an apartment tuner, and then I'm like, all right, I have, without getting into too many specifics, like this is the internet, so I know people will run with it. So I had enough money saved up. I'm like, all right, let's invest in a business, right? Like an actual physical shop space. And I remember asking Alex, I'm like, hey, would you value having a place to come into work? And he really pushed for it. You remember Moonshine was so excited. He was like, bro, I want a place to go into work. It's gonna be fantastic. Let's do it. I was like, okay, fine. Let's get a place, right? And then other than this, I looked at there was an old used Porsche dealer that used to restore Porsches as well. It was on 59 and Fondren out where all the body shops and stuff
It had been expensive.
Bro, this was a 28,000 square foot facility.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what I was thinking even looking at it, but the rent was insane. It was $14,000.
Yeah, I'm glad we're not there.
Yeah, well, can you imagine how much we'd have laying around if we were there? Chidong's like, bro, I'd have my own office.
Yeah.
But I looked at that. I looked at a couple other 6,000, 7,000 square foot places. I looked at a couple 10,000. And then this was the one I ended up at. And the only reason I ended up here was I looked at it. I said, well, this already kind of has, if you've been to our shop, we've got that when you enter, it's like in quadrants, essentially. You have like a quarter of it. It's not really a quarter, but like one quadrant is the customer area showroom. One quadrant is the office. One quadrant is a shop. And then you have this little diner room that
is this back area bigger or smaller than the front area? I think it's smaller.
It's definitely smaller.
I wish it was, because I can't work out there.
I wish it was flipped as well. Yes. These are regrets. These are things that I would do differently. So
I think the showroom is bigger than the actual shop.
I think the showroom is bigger.
It's the same size as our office and the showroom.
The showroom is bigger than the shop. Listen, man, I know these things. Okay, I pay for this. I air condition this whole place, which is mostly empty and unusable to us. But
you can rent out the front space.
We could, or we could just move out of here, which is probably what we're going to do. But anyway, so I was like, fine, let's do it. So I got ready to invest all the money into rent, into desks, into everything, right? And at that point is when I wish I had asked for help. I think that's one thing that I should have done better, is I should have relied on friends and even reached out to other businesses to ask how it should have been done. Because at that point, I could have taken a step to redo it. Because it's a lot harder now for us to move out of here than it is for us to have found that originally. If I'd taken the time to plan and think about it, right?
I blame Moonshine for his eagerness.
I blame Moonshine for his eagerness, but also part of that is me. A lot of times I value getting it done over having it done perfectly, right? And there's a fine balance between that. I mean, a really good example is Chidong this morning was really pissing me off. Because last week I asked him to make like two or three logos, right? Or maybe it was like 5 or 10 logos, whatever. Because we needed to add the B48 tuning. And the BMW, it's really difficult because the B58 and B48 are used across so many various models.
12.
That with our race mode tuning page where we go by the car and the model, it's not very easy to do, right? Because you have to have like 20. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. It's a lot of work. Just get it done though, because then at least we can upload it, right? And then this morning he's like, bro, but like, why do we have to do it that way? And then I was like, I was getting so frustrated, and I took a step back to think. I'm like, why am I getting so mad right now? And it was one of those times where I'm like, no, I just value getting this done. I don't really care about how perfect it looks. I need somewhere where people can go, right? And that was kind of the thought when I got the shop. I was like, I need somewhere people can go. This works. I don't have to build it out. I don't have to invest money in getting all the partitions up and all this stuff. Let's just do it. And it worked out okay. I think we didn't do terrible. People like the shop. They think it's really cool when they walk into I think
it's a nice looking shop.
I think when customers walk into the showroom, they think we're a lot bigger than we are. It gives this like idea of grandeur. Like, oh damn, they gave me all this space to sit.
That's important though.
It's important.
Shop,
yeah,
right?
It is. It works. I think it works in our favor, but it could be maybe like half the size and it'd still be okay.
It helps those customers that are spending 10, 20,000 with us, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, and it ends up, when people ask like, oh, well, if I leave my car, where's it going to be? I'm like, hey, it's going to be right here, man. Yeah. We got all this space. Look, I'm going to park all the cars, right? Mm-hmm. Locked up inside. And yeah, we park customer cars in all the time normally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
we had Ben's car in there for a while. Actually, it was cool because it was a cool looking car.
Mason's car was awesome too. His most recent GTR.
Everyone comes in, will be like, "Oh my god, it's a GTR!"
God,
they look at it.
Yeah. We should put the TSX in there once you guys wrap it. Not TSX, sorry, RSX. I'm so sorry.
Nice. I don't know about the bumper. It came with no hardware.
Reach out to Justin from Street Science. Anyway, so yeah, it was like, all right, well, let's get something going, right? And I think when you're in the start stages of a small business or a small shop, get something going is more important than get it done perfectly. I know a lot of people who get stuck in the planning phase, and then they can never execute because while they were planning, their cost to get into it grew so high that eventually, like, you know what, I don't want to do it.
Analysis paralysis.
What? Analysis paralysis?
Yeah, analysis paralysis. Just, you're trying to make a decision like the example that you're giving, and you're stuck with all the different choices you're making. You're just kind of stuck there, not actually going
without
forward.
Acting on it. Yeah.
Yep.
So at that stage, it was like important to act.
Yeah.
So my advice would be, if you get to that point, just go forward with it. Take your time. Obviously, don't jump into it. Take maybe
go forward, but like wait.
Yeah, take a little more time than I did. Ask people, ask advice from friends and family and experts, and be willing. If you don't have friends and family, be willing to pay people who do this for a living, like for their time. I think the worst thing you can do is devalue another person's time, whether it's your employees, whether it's another business you're going to for help, anything like that, right? And then get it set up. And then after that, once you have all your groundwork laid out and everything, all that matters is that you keep your quality, because focus on what got you the business in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's what we focus on. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Justice listens to this podcast or not. I'm still waiting for you to tell me what we did wrong, bro. Like that stuff, people don't think we care. If you tell me that, hey, I've heard that, he said something like, I just wish you guys would go back to your roots and go back to how you were. And I asked him to, it might not, but I asked him to, expand on that. He didn't tell me anything. I'm like, hey, if you have someone who's coming to you with a legitimate complaint, please let me know, because we address them. You guys know, I come down on you guys hard for like sometimes when it's not even your fault. And I'm like, hey, why did this customer have a bad experience? Right. Yeah. And they're like very few. If we want percentages wise, I could just be that guy who's like, well, it's only 1% who are unsatisfied, so whatever. But I've always strived for 100% satisfaction with every single person that we work with.
If you look at 3 years ago, right, and what Instagram 3 years ago was like 4,000 followers, right?
Yeah.
We're at 16 and a half and change. Our phone calls, emails, text message, all of that increased. And I'm not sure how much of that you check, but our response time largely has stayed the same. Like I try to, like, especially on the weekends, I try to get away from it, not respond, but like I still do respond to that. So I think our quality of our customer service, and not even just customer service, just people asking questions, just like tuning, right? So if people buy a tune from us, we're still, I'd say, if you ask Moonshine, I'd say about 90% of our customers get a response within one business day, which is what it was 3 years ago.
That's exactly what it was.
And
I was actually worse when it was just me, because I couldn't do, I would sometimes miss, and I'd be like, hey, 48 hours, right? Which is why we have 24 to 48 hours. But yeah, we focused on our quality, and that's proven for us, right? Like we've grown, but then you still have people who don't think we're doing right by them. And I guess I'm never going to please all of you guys, right? But like even to this day, I value the quality of the interaction. It's not even the quality. Of course it's the quality of the tune, right? And of course it's the quality of the work that's done on the car. That's a given. Like that should not be, oh, we do really good quality tunes, so everything else will come with it, right? You can have the best work and the best everything in the world, but if your customer experience is not good, you're gonna fizzle out.
A lot of the shops, they feel like because of my work speaks for itself, everything else can fall.
Yeah, but it doesn't just fall. Your work should speak for itself. That's fantastic. You should be a master of your craft. You should aim to have the best tunes, the best, service work, the best products, the best everything, right? But none of that matters if your customer service is not there.
Yeah.
And I think that is the major point that, at least in the performance tuning and aftermarket industry, is where I see people failing. And like, I almost feel like a fraud even now talking about it, right? Because like, who am I? I've been a shop for 3 years, right? I'm sure people are watching.
Yeah, but we have some experience. We have some success.
But there's people who could sit here like, man, I've been doing it for 10 years, and they're rolling their eyes. Like, I'll see you at the 10-year mark, see how you're doing, right? And sure, maybe we will become like that. We don't know, right? But I can tell you, until now, this is what we've done, and it's worked for us. Beyond that, I don't have advice, man, other than like, don't let it do it. Yeah, just do it. Really, like fucking Nike, just do it.
Yeah, don't quit your day job.
Yeah, and get a good team of people around you, man. This shop would not be what it is without the team that I have, and value the people around you. My life would be significantly worse if I had high turnover at Racebox. If like my employees kept leaving, and they're like, hey man, I found a better opportunity elsewhere. And like, to avoid that, you have to actually care about the people that work for you. I mean, I'm lucky I'm surrounded by friends, so the caring comes naturally, right? And you can, you tune into them like, hey man, what, is the job working for you? Is this working for your lifestyle? Do you need any adjustments made? And be flexible. I could have been the guy who's like, nope, I want everyone here every day at 8:30, and you don't leave till 6:30. You don't get a lunch break. A lot of shops do that.
Yeah.
And they think that because they work on cool cars, people are just going to stay, right?
It's not enough.
That's not enough.
It's not enough.
You want people to stay, you got to show them that they're valued. Yeah. But yeah, build a good team. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you misjudge character. And then be graceful when it doesn't work either. Don't hold grudges and all that either. If things don't work out, they don't work out. There's always another way. Everyone's going to find their way through anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. Is there any other specific questions people had about?
Like, how do you balance your personal life and business? Because this business is your life.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with a lot more now. Because before, when it was my life, it was okay. I was newly married. My wife she still is really chill. But she was more chill back then, I think, because she's like, well, he's starting his business, right? And I think you have to have an understanding partner if you're married or seeing someone. Like, without a supportive partner, this shit doesn't work. Like, if you have someone who's like, oh, I don't understand why you spent all this time there, and they don't see the vision and the greater, your greater path forward, you're gonna, either your relationship's gonna fail or the business is gonna fail. Mm-hmm. But I was lucky in that my wife was very supportive. But for myself now, I'm like, well, I don't want this to be my life anymore, right? Like, I was back in the day, you'd see me on my phone at home, just responding to Facebook comments, always on the groups, always doing this. And I just can't do that anymore. The balance comes after. I don't think there is a balance when you're starting off a business. There wasn't for me. It was, like I said, 16 hours. So where in those 16 hours did I have time for my wife? I didn't. And I've apologized to her many times in the future when I think back about it. I'm like, wow, that's really, you moved in to a new city and I was just busy doing this, So it's stuff you learn later. But I think if you're going to start a business, you got to be prepared for that. There is no balance until you get to the point where you have a team who can help you. Like now, because the load is shared across all of us, I would like to think we all have a pretty good work-life balance. Yeah. Mo probably has the least of it, to be quite honest, because he's always answering you guys, and I see it sometimes. Like, even me, I'll like think of stuff randomly and I'll put it in the Teams chat, and then Mo will respond. I'm like, bro, why are you responding to me at like 11 o'clock on a Saturday? I appreciate it.
Yeah,
but it's it's hard. It's hard. I mean, what's your take on it?
So for me, it's like a personality trait. So like if Hussain messaged me something work related Saturday afternoon, I'll be thinking about it, right? So I'm a person that like, I try to do the hardest things in the day first, and then before I can relax, right? If I was the type of person in school that I would come home and before I played video games or did anything, I would knock out all my homework.
Jesus, what a nerd.
Yeah, when I was like hardcore into like World of Warcraft when I was in high school.
You do homework before playing WoW?
I'd do you one further. I would spend lunch doing homework, right? On the way back when I would take a bus, I would do homework then. And then I have to finish anything else. I would do that before I did anything. So it was just like a personality trait for me.
Wow, I used to do my homework in homeroom or like right before the teacher came in for that class. Like,
I mean, it was easy enough, right?
Like we were done.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
that makes sense though. But see, then so Mo's told me like, hey bro, like I've asked him why, and he's like, well, if you send it to me, I'm gonna do it.
It's be on my mind.
I can't stop because my mind doesn't stop either because the business is on my. That's actually a good point. no matter how much balance you have, you are never away from your business. I don't have a fleeting moment ever where I'm not worried about how these guys are doing at the shop.
Even on vacation.
Even on vacation, I'm always, and like they will tell me like, bro, just uninstall the shit, don't message us. I can't stay away. I'll install and I'll message and I'll just be like, hey, what's going on, guys? You know, like it's very hard. I don't know any business owner that has good work-life balance. In that regard, where like you can just disassociate from the business.
Unless you're so far away from the day-to-day, right? And they're usually bigger companies. So they've hired like an operations manager, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And like that would be the goal for me, is to get, I mean, I've discussed this with Mo, he knows this, is like to grow the business to the point where I can truly have time away from it and just not worry. But it's so connected on me. I mean, even to this day, people request, hey, will Hussain tune my car?
Right.
And I've said this on the podcast before. You're better off with Alex tuning your car, man. It's just, how do I say this? He has less distractions. His job is purely to tune your car.
Yeah.
My job is to tune some cars and then also run this place, take care of everybody here's livelihood, make sure customers are happy, follow the whole process. There's a lot more on my plate than there is on Alex's. So if you have Alex tuning your Q50, you are in good hands, right? Eventually, with the B58s, I mean, we're doing pretty good. We've tuned about 60 B58s this year on Ecutech, which is decent because it's hard to get people on Ecutech. I want to teach that to someone else, so you know I can pass that on and they can grow it, just like Alex grew the Q50 tuning for me. But yeah, my eventual goal would be to kind of get to that point where this place is run.
I think it's also tough. So even if you do hire operations manager, someone just overlook the business, that person has to care as much about the business as you, right? So that's never
going to happen. Yeah. Like you are probably the closest I will get to someone caring about the business as me. But I know for a fact that you will never care about it as much as me.
Yeah, everything's different. Right?
It's different, yeah. It's never going to happen, right? Like, and that is the hardest part, actually.
And nothing I can say or do to tell you.
No, otherwise. And it's not like a character flaw of yours. If you had your own business, you would be the same way, right? And it's like, that is the hardest part about owning a business, is knowing that no one else is going to do it like you would.
Yeah.
And then you have to be okay with letting that go. And that's something I'm probably not the best at still. Because sometimes I still get the urge to come and be like, hey guys, why'd you handle it this way? Right? Like there's times when I read an email and I type something, I'm like, no, just leave it.
Yeah.
They did it, wait for the result.
You hop an email chain like, hey, what's going on here? What you guys do?
I'm sure that's so annoying when I just come in and be like,
oh, bro, please.
I'm like that annoying ass boss, like, bro, give me an update. What's going on here? Why, you know, it's like without context too, right? Like I'll see one email and I'll be like, that's not right. Let me go in and tell them. I send you random fucking
emails. Yep.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey bro, do this like this next time. And like it's not good. I should be better about trusting you guys, because while like physically you might not be able to have that same attachment and care for the business that I do, that doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. Right? Yeah. And that doesn't mean that the outcome's gonna be any different. Just because I stress more doesn't automatically make the outcome better. It's more of like a downside of being a business owner that you just have to deal with. You will never, no one else will ever stress as much about your business, but they'll probably still get you the same outcome, or they'll be within like 0.5% of the same outcome if you want to quantify, right? And that's okay.
Yeah, you take that 0.5% that you would have maybe gotten if you managed 100% by yourself, but you're getting that mental peace, that headspace.
Yes.
You're not worrying about it on a Saturday or Sunday evening and thinking about something. So
exactly. Yeah. It's
trade-off on what you're willing to give.
Yes. Yeah. It's a trade-off, and then it's also a trade-off for what you want in life. Like I think ideally, I don't, my next step in growth is, how does it work when you manage 2 businesses? How does it work when you manage 3, 4, 5 and you grow like that, right? Like what do you do if you worry? Like I wonder, I'd like to pick the brain of like a CEO who didn't start the business, who was just hired. Like, someone owns the company, the owner is gone. How does that owner feel? And how does the CEO feel? Yeah. Right? Like what is the relationship there? Does the CEO care as much about it? Does the CEO just care about profits? And is it purely monetarily motivated? These are things that I would like to learn, and I think it's probably something that just comes with experience, because I'm not going down the corporate ladder again. That didn't work out for me. I hated corporate. I was never built for corporate. I guess I just got to try it out. But yeah, that's.
Where do you see Racebox in 5 years and then 10 years?
Jesus Christ.
2029 versus
That's a really good question, and one I don't have an answer for because, like I said at the start of this, I am not a planner.
Yeah.
I have, to be quite honest, it sounds cheesy. I have a really strong faith in God. So when I started this, I felt like it was handed to me. Every year has been a blessing. I run this by the seat of my pants, and so far, my intuition and God has not led me wrong. So I don't know where it's going to be in 5 years, man, and I don't know where it's going to be in 10 years. I'll be happy with wherever it is in 5 or 10 years, though, because that's what's meant for me. That's how I personally feel. It's cheesy as hell, but I really don't have an answer for that, man. Like, there are things that I'd like to see. There's like, growth goals and all this kind of stuff, but concrete wise, like what it's going to look like, how much money we're going to be making, what our turnover is going to be, what kind of customers we're going to have, I got no clue. What would you like to see in 5 or 10 years?
5 years thing, from like a customer facing aspect, I want us to keep expanding different platforms and not just tuning a bunch of different platforms just to say that, hey, we just did it. Us to like be proficient, right? Like today we made an Instagram story about B9.
I'm so excited about that. Yeah.
So like stuff like that, and it's kind of like, force induction 6-cylinders, right?
Yep.
So just expanding into other platforms and getting really.
I want to do those freaking the new Dodge. The Hurricanes.
Oh, the Hurricanes 600.
Yeah, I want to get my hands on one of those.
Yeah. So stuff like that. I really like the TLX motors. What's the drivetrain called? The TLX Type S motors?
You should know.
3.5 liter turbo.
What's the
code?
Is it on Honda yet, or is it K-Tuner?
K-Tuner released a base mapper, but you cannot tune it. It's still in beta.
Yeah, so stuff like that.
We'll mess with that when it comes out because they have the all-wheel drive too, right?
What? They are.
K-Tuner is small enough. I think if you reach out, they might actually see you and see your tuner, because I think only 1 or 2 tuners have access to the beta. And
K-Tuner, if you see this, hook it up, bro.
But
that'd be awesome.
I don't know. I've heard mixed things about their customer service when it comes to like when you reach out for like actual like important stuff.
They might want us to have a TLX shop car.
We
have too many shop cars right now.
The one person I know, he has one personally. So that's
I mean, we'll wait then. We'll wait for someone to come out with support for it. And then what about for you and the growth of the company? And what do you feel? Mo's like the de facto manager, to be quite honest. He is kind of like the COO, if you were ever to have a name like that. I kind of pass on everything to do with the day-to-day with Mo. I'm like, hey, schedule this, do that, right? I handle more of the admin and business side stuff. So where do you see it with Alex, all the employees, and everyone?
I mean, without sitting here in deep thought and like thinking about it, just take our current setup and just multiply it, right? So the tuning support platform, the shop side of things, while remaining consistent, right? Because that's what we talked about earlier in the podcast is as you see these companies get bigger, things start to fall wayside in terms of quality that they do for tuning side of things, service-wise, communication, all that starts to like pretty much go down the drain, right? Yeah. So it's like expand while keeping the same, like what we value and why you started the business in the first place, keeping those values consistent throughout our expansion.
Grow the teams as the business grows. Yeah. Don't get over encumbered. So I guess we can end it on this. If today you were to say, hey, these are the places where I need more personnel, regardless of cash flow, regardless of whether the business can afford it, what would you change about the staffing?
To like fire?
No. Yeah, you'd love that. No. We'd have a lot of sad people today. I'm kidding. Well, in terms of if you to predict for the growth in the current capacity that we are at now, what would you add or what would you change in terms of personnel and resources?
If the cash flow was there, it would be expanding to different platforms, whether that's buying a shop car or investing into current shop cars so we can expand that. Because
so you think personnel-wise we're good for the current capacity or the current quantity of tunes
I think we are,
that we do?
Because we all bust our ass at the end of the day, right? So it's not like we come in at 9 o'clock and we check out at 5 p.m. like we're done. Like that's not how any of us work.
Yeah, I will say one thing. These guys they're not always the most efficient at their jobs, but there's no doubt in my mind that every single one of these guys will bust their ass to get a job done.
Yeah. So, that's my answer.
Cool. Give me money so we can buy shop cars.
Like a TLX Type S.
A TLX Type S.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Offer me money for our existing shop cars so I can get other shop cars.
Like the RSX? When are we seeing the RSX on video?
Yeah, why is there no video about the RSX, Chidong? Or pictures? Do people even know we have one?
I mean, it's missing a front
I'm still
bumper.
figuring out how to put stuff together on a car.
Wow. Yeah. At Chidong, and in the comments, be like, Chidong, where's the RSX?
It's actually
Hold him accountable.
It's actually very expensive to do what we're trying to do correctly. But you said you don't want to do this correctly. You want to do it cheap.
I want to do it ghetto.
But I don't know.
I want a 3-second 60 to 130, the most ghetto way possible.
It's not gonna happen in a ghetto way. That's the thing.
What if we sell it and get an FRS or?
No.
Wow.
FA20 or FA24 will blow up before you even start.
Yeah, what if we build it and do a full send track? You know how many people are on those freaking road courses with Moonshine where they run these cars? We get so many customers for road coursing.
You know what? They keep the engine stock.
They do.
That's
it's
fine,
all
but
suspension.
they tune it.
They don't though. Sometimes they don't, and their class limits don't even allow it.
Like the Mark V Supra guys. Most of those guys keep the stock.
Did you know Ecutech's top?
Yes.
Did you know Ecutech's top 2 platforms that they sell? No. The GR86 and the VQs. Those are top selling. We should be on the FA20s. FA20s and FA24s is what we should be in.
But no, but here's the FA20 is better to tune and comp what you do now. So I don't know how I've never seen Ecutech on FRS because comp is cheaper and it's easier to use.
Shop BRZ.
I think they're light. I'm kidding.
Let's do a shop beer. Let's do a Gen 2 BRZ. Those look sick too.
They look good.
With the FA24.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new gen, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's sell the RSX. Get an FA24.
No, get a WRX.
WRX are nice. I like WRX.
It has the better version of FA24.
Yeah.
Because it's meant to be boosted from.
And Ecutech tunes, right? Ecutech is supported.
Did you see with stock turbo and all of Mikey tune, Mikey body? He got one to run 10.
He's in the 10s.
Stock.
Yeah.
Stock, everything stock turbo and just 85.
Well, not stock everything, stock turbo.
Yeah.
That's pretty surprising.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So.
Mikey's a good tuner though.
Yes.
He came from Subaru, so you know.
Yeah, his name's STI Mikey, right? Yeah, he's still OG STI tuner. Yeah. Okay, that's where we're gonna end it. Goodbye.
Say bye, Mo.
Bye.
You gotta kiss him goodnight. Like, there you go. People like that the first time we did it.
Oh God, so
you're
weird.
like, oh my gosh.
Okay.